My name is Lauren Whitfield, and I'm 32 years old. If you had asked me a week ago what my future looked like, I would have told you the same thing I'd been telling everyone: family, coworkers, the barista who always wrote bride to be on my coffee cups. A September wedding, eucalyptus lined aisle, 200 guests. A soft, safe life built next to the man I believed God had sent to me. I didn't grow up dreaming about a fairy tale wedding. I wasn't that girl. But with Ethan, the picture had formed all on its own. Him waiting at the altar, his dad, a pastor, choking up during the vows. My sister dabbing tears behind her sunglasses. My mother squeezing my hand so hard her rings left marks. I believed in that version of my future. I invested in it, emotionally, financially, with the kind of quiet, stubborn hope people don't talk about. And the night that dream died didn't come with thunder or screaming. It arrived quietly, the way cracks appear beneath fresh paint, unnoticed until they ruin the wall. It started with a flight schedule change. I was supposed to return from my business trip the next morning, but weather delays shifted my connection, putting me home 5 hours earlier than planned. I remember feeling almost giddy as I rolled my carry-on across the parking structure, imagining Ethan's shocked smile when he opened the door. He loves surprises, or at least that's what I'd always believed. The apartment was dark when I walked in, just the glow from the kitchen under cabinet lights. Ethan's shoes were by the entryway. His jacket hung crookedly on the hook, and for some reason, that tiny tilt bothered me. It was unlike him. Ethan was many things, but careless wasn't one of them. The bathroom light was on. I heard the shower running. I smiled, already picturing how I'd slide the door open, how he'd freeze, then laugh, then pull me in, even though my luggage was still by the front door. That's when I saw it, his phone, lying screen up on the kitchen island. Unlocked. For a second, I only noticed the wallpaper, a photo of us at his cousin's engagement party, my head leaning against his shoulder, his hand on my waist. We looked like people who were going somewhere. Then the notification popped up. A text bubble from someone saved as Gym Buddy. You left the hotel key in my coat pocket. Did you find it? My throat tightened. At first, I didn't process it. I blinked once, twice, as if the words might rearrange into something harmless. But they didn't. The preview line below it was worse. Also, last night, I can still feel you. My hands went cold. I told myself not to overreact. People name their contacts stupid things all the time. Maybe this was an inside joke. Maybe it was innocent. But my finger tapped the message thread before my logic could finish making excuses. The conversation opened, and everything inside me went silent. There were photos, hotels, inside jokes I had never heard, plans to be more careful, complaints about me, about how boring I was, how predictable, how she'll never know. The earliest message was from 8 months ago. 8 months. A cold wave moved through my chest, and my knees felt like they weren't attached to the rest of me. I swallowed hard, forcing air into my lungs. The apartment hummed with the steady rush of shower water, oblivious, casual, infuriating. I scrolled. More messages. More nights. More lies. They weren't even shy about using his real name in the thread, Ethan, alongside hers. Melissa, his coworker. The same woman he'd said was like a kid sister, the same one who always laughed a little too loudly when he walked into the room during work events. My vision pulsed, and suddenly the under-cabinet kitchen lights felt painfully bright. I should have screamed. I should have thrown something. That's what people do in movies, right? Instead, I sat down at the dining table, phone still in my hand, and the world narrowed to a tunnel. My fingers tingled. I could feel my heartbeat in my jaw. I read backward through months of conversations, planning hotel nights, joking about how they had to delete messages more often, laughing about how she actually thinks I'm at the gym. Me. I was the black hole of his jokes. My eyes blurred. I didn't realize tears were falling until they splashed onto the table. I don't remember how long I sat there. Time felt like something unmoored. The shower kept running. The world kept turning. Only I had stopped. Eventually, something inside me clicked. The version of myself that organizes receipts in color-coded folders and balances budgets with surgical precision. I opened Ethan's cloud account. He'd forgotten it was still linked for wedding planning. His photo backups were still syncing. And there it was. Images no woman preparing to marry a man should ever have to see. My breath shook, but my hands stayed steady as I took screenshots. Every message, every photo, every timestamp. I forwarded them to my email. Then I opened our shared credit card account. Hotel charges, restaurants, bars he'd never taken me to, All on nights he said he was working late, coaching a friend through a breakup, helping his mom fix her garage door. The life I thought we had was paper thin, and beneath it was a version of Ethan that I didn't recognize. A man who could look me in the eyes every morning, every night, and lie without flinching. I didn't hear the shower stop, but I heard the bathroom door open. Footsteps. Then, Lauren? I didn't look up, I couldn't. He walked into the kitchen wearing only a towel, rubbing his hair with another. When he saw me, he froze. The towel stopped mid-motion. You're home? I didn't know. His gaze dropped to the phone in my hand. Everything in his expression changed. His face drained of color so fast it almost fascinated me. Lauren, he said again, quieter this time. I can explain. I raised the phone. Jim, buddy, I said softly. Who is she really? His mouth opened, shut, opened again. What are you talking about? I stood, my voice calm in a way that scared even me. Don't insult me like that. He took a step forward. Just give me the phone. Let me... I stepped back. No. For a split second, the air between us stilled. I watched panic flicker across his face. Not remorse. Panic. Lauren, please, just let me talk. 8 months. 8 months of pillow talk he gave to someone else. 8 months of me planning a wedding, while he planned hotel nights. 8 months of lies. Pack a bag, I said quietly. You're leaving. He blinked. What? No, Lauren, listen to me. It's not, please just let me explain. It didn't mean anything. I stared at him. That's the problem. He swallowed hard. Lauren, pack a bag. My voice didn't shake. Inside, everything inside me was torn, raw, violently hurt. But outside, I was ice. He reached for me again, but I stepped around the table and pointed toward the bedroom. Go! And for the first time since I'd met him, Ethan had no argument left. He went. The apartment fell silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the clock above the stove, each second marking the death of the life I thought I had. He was quiet while he packed. That's the thing I remember most. No slammed drawers, no angry muttering, just the soft pull of hangers sliding along the closet rod and the dull thump of shoes landing in a duffel bag. I stood in the kitchen, fingers resting on the edge of the counter, staring at the pattern in the stone. Little gray veins, a faint crack I'd been meaning to call the landlord about. My heart was pounding so hard it made my vision pulse, but on the outside, I probably looked composed. Ethan moved down the hallway, the towel replaced by jeans and a t-shirt. He wouldn't look at me directly. His eyes skated over me, then away, like I was too bright, too dangerous to meet head-on. Lauren, he tried again, voice hoarse. Please, just listen to me. We've been together 4 years. We're getting married. You can't just... I didn't do anything, I said. You did. He flinched like I'd slapped him. It wasn't like that, he said. It wasn't... He swallowed. It wasn't 8 months the way it looks. It wasn't that many times. It just got out of hand. Oh, I said softly. So you didn't cheat on me for 8 months. You cheated on me fewer times. That's supposed to make it better? He shut his eyes, jaw clenching. It was a mistake. I almost laughed. The sound came out brittle and wrong. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, I said. A mistake is ordering the wrong cake flavor. You don't mistake your way into hotel rooms. He took a step towards me, desperation creeping into his voice. We can fix this. I'll block her. I'll quit my job if I have to. We can go to counseling. You know me. You know my heart. Don't throw us away over... My hand went up. Stop! The word hung there between us. His eyes shone, and for a second I saw the man I'd almost married, the one who made late-night pancakes and cried at animal shelter commercials. It hurt. God, it hurt. But I also saw Melissa's hands on his chest in the photos. I saw his words. She'll never know. She's so trusting. I almost feel bad. Almost. Lauren, he whispered. I love you. No, I said quietly. You loved what I gave you. Stability. Convenience. A fiancé who handled everything while you played pretend at the gym. Tears spilled over. He scrubbed them away angrily. So that's it then? You're just done? I'm not the one who ended this, I replied. You did. 8 months ago. I'm just catching up. He stared at me for a long moment, like he was looking for some sign of softness, some crack in the wall. There wasn't one. Finally, he exhaled, defeated. Fine, he said. I'll come back tomorrow for the rest of my stuff. I pointed toward the living room. I'll pack it. It'll be by the door. Be quick. His mouth tightened. At least think about the wedding, he said. The deposits. That's a lot of money to just... I have, I said. You're not going to like my conclusion. His nostrils flared like he wanted to argue, but something, maybe the look on my face, stopped him. He picked up his duffel and walked to the door. Hand on the knob, he turned back. "I really did love you," he said softly. "I still do." I held his gaze. "You loved that I didn't know." His shoulders sagged. Then he opened the door and left. The click of the latch sounded obscenely final. For a long time after he was gone, I didn't move. The apartment felt too big and too small at the same time, stuffed with ghosts of conversations that suddenly meant nothing. Our engagement photo on the wall. The stack of wedding magazines on the coffee table. The RSVP cards lined up in neat piles, separated into yes and no. My chest burned. I wanted to scream, to rip everything off the walls, to set fire to the stupid eucalyptus samples. Instead, I walked back to the dining table, sat down, and pulled his phone toward me again. If there's one thing I know how to do, it's organize chaos. I reopened the messages with Melissa. 8 months. Hotels. Screenshots. I took them all. I forwarded the entire thread to my email, double-checking each time that the attachments had gone through. Then I opened our shared cloud folder for wedding planning. There they were, the same auto backups I'd already seen, but now I went deeper, through albums he'd labeled as work trip and conference and guys' night. They weren't subtle. Melissa half-dressed in dim hotel light, selfies of the two of them in bed, photos of room service trays and champagne glasses and receipts with dates I recognized all too well, nights I'd spent home alone, convincing myself his ambition was something to admire, not something that would eventually gut me. I saved everything. Every receipt. Every timestamp. Every lie. Next, I logged into the credit card account where I'd added him as an authorized user. Transactions lined the screen like a confession. Hotel chains. Upscale restaurants. Bars near the office. Charges on Thursdays. On late work nights. On Sundays, he'd said he was helping his dad with sermon prep. I opened a spreadsheet and started a timeline. Date, location, amount, cover story. By the time I finished, the first sheen of numbness had worn off, leaving a cold, methodical fury in its place. By morning, my inbox was full. "Ethan, can we please talk? I'm at my parents'. I love you. Please don't throw everything away over this." 5 minutes later. "Ethan, it didn't mean anything. She didn't mean anything. It was just a mistake. One night that got out of control." One night? Interesting choice of phrasing. I didn't respond. Around noon, my phone lit up with a call from a number I knew by heart. His older sister, Jenna. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. "Hello?" "Lauren." Jenna's voice was soft, measured, the way people talk to someone standing on a bridge. "He told me you found out." "I did," I said. Silence, then a sigh. "He messed up," she said. "Okay? He knows that. He's beside himself. But don't you think you're being a little harsh?" Something in me almost snapped. "Harsh," I repeated. "I mean, it was a mistake," Jenna rushed on. "One night, one stupid decision that spiraled. People make mistakes all the time. Are you really going to throw away 4 years over one mistake?" I closed my eyes. The spreadsheet was still open on my laptop, the dates and numbers glaring back at me. "Jenna," I said quietly, "what's your email?" She hesitated. "Why?" "So you can stop calling it one mistake." A beat. Then she gave it to me. "Check it," I said and hung up. I attached the screenshots, the photos, the credit card statements, the neatly organized timeline, every hotel, every dinner, every night he'd chosen Melissa over me. Then I hit send. My phone exploded. "Jenna, Lauren, what is this?" "Jenna, okay, that looks bad, but you have to understand the pressure he's been under." I muted the thread. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. For a second, I considered letting it ring out, but some dark curiosity made me swipe. "Hello?" "Lauren," a familiar voice said. "Ethan's mother. We're coming by in an hour to get some of Ethan's things." Of course we were. I looked around the apartment. The neatly stacked boxes I'd packed after the sun came up. His clothes folded, his books organized, his gadgets carefully bubble-wrapped. "Everything's in the living room," I said. "Come in, get it, and go." She huffed. "Marriage takes work, you know. You can't just give up the second things get difficult." I let out a dry, humorless breath. "Things didn't get difficult," I said. "Your son had an affair for 8 months." "It wasn't 8 months," she snapped. "He told me it wasn't even that many times. It was a mistake. He's devastated. You should see him." "I saw the receipts," I said. He looked pretty enthusiastic. She inhaled sharply. "We'll see you soon." The line went dead. An hour later, there was a knock. I opened the door to find Ethan, his mother, and Jenna standing there like a small, miserable delegation. His mom's lips were pressed into a thin line. Jenna looked like she hadn't slept. Ethan couldn't quite meet my eyes. His things are there, I said, stepping aside. They came in, his mother already in mid-lecture. You know, Lauren, relationships require forgiveness. You can't just toss someone aside because they messed up. He didn't mess up, I said. He constructed a second life. Jenna spoke up then, voice brittle. Look, nobody's saying he didn't do anything wrong, but you have to admit you've been intense. With the wedding, with money, with everything. Maybe he felt pressured. There it was. I almost smiled. So, your theory, I said, is that he slept with his coworker because I'm good with spreadsheets? That's not what I said, Jenna muttered. It's what you implied. Ethan finally looked at me, eyes red. I know I don't deserve it, he said, but I'm asking for another chance. I'll quit my job, I'll block her, we'll go to therapy, I'll do whatever you want. Please don't throw away our wedding, our life, over this. People work through this all the time, his mother added. You're being stubborn. People work through one-time mistakes, I said. He made hundreds of decisions over 8 months to lie to my face every single day while planning a wedding. I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering who he's texting at the gym. No one spoke. His mother's eyes glittered with anger. What about the deposits? She demanded. The venue, the photographer, the caterer, we've paid for everything. You can't just cancel and keep all that money. I paid for everything, I said evenly. Every contract is in my name. Every deposit came from my account. I'll get refunds where I can. Some losses are just part of the lesson. Jenna's eyes narrowed. So you're just keeping the money? No, I said. I'm swallowing the loss. It's the price of not marrying a cheater. Ethan flinched. His mother put an arm around him. Sweetheart, let's just get your things. This is clearly a waste of time. They started loading boxes. It took maybe 30 minutes. At the door, Ethan paused. If you ever change your mind... I won't, I said. He swallowed. Then he was gone again. I closed the door, leaned my forehead against it for a second, then pushed off and walked to my laptop. The spreadsheet was still open. Beside it, a browser tab with Melissa's social media profile. She was smiling in her profile picture, standing next to a tall man and 2 kids with his eyes. Husband, children, matching Christmas pajamas. I clicked the husband's profile. My cursor hovered over the message button. Because if I deserved to know who I was about to marry, maybe he did too. The decision felt strangely cold, but it also felt right. I spent the next few hours gathering evidence, organizing the screenshots, the hotel receipts, the photos, everything. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about making sure the truth was as clear as it could be. If Ethan could lie for 8 months, so could I. But I wasn't going to lie to anyone who deserved to know the truth. I opened a new message and wrote, Subject, you need to know the truth. Hello, my name is Lauren Whitfield, and I've just found out that my fiancé, Ethan, has been having an affair with someone at work for the past 8 months. I'm deeply sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you deserve to know who your husband really is. He's been lying to both of us. Attached are some photos, text messages, and hotel receipts. I hope this helps you. Please take care of yourself. Best, Lauren. My finger hovered over the send button for longer than I expected, but I pressed it. My stomach churned as the message left my outbox. I didn't know what kind of reply I was expecting, if any, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't about saving my relationship. This was about giving that woman the chance to protect herself before she got hurt the same way I had. It was maybe an hour later when I received a response. Subject, thank you. Lauren, I want to thank you for reaching out. I've suspected for a while, but seeing it in black and white is devastating. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but this has given me some clarity. I'm sorry you're going through this too. Please take care of yourself. Her response hit me harder than I expected. I felt a strange solidarity with this stranger. She was on the other side of the world, living a life that could have been mine. Her pain was just as real as mine, and it felt oddly comforting to know I wasn't alone in this. I closed the email, then opened my phone to find a message from Ethan. His name flickered on the screen. I had to take a breath before tapping it open. Ethan, please, Lauren, just let me explain. We can fix this. We can work through it. Just give me the chance. I stared at the message for a long time, my heart doing something strange in my chest. Was it pity? Regret? Guilt? I wasn't sure anymore. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was tired. It wasn't anger that had gotten me through this. It was just cold, clean clarity. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was who he was. I deleted the message. The notifications from his family started coming in. His sister, his mother, all of them begging me to reconsider, telling me I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. I muted every thread without hesitation. They didn't get it. They didn't understand the weight of what had happened. I didn't want to feel this numb anymore. I stood up, walked over to the window, and looked out at the city. The sky was a soft pink, the early evening light casting long shadows across the buildings. The world outside seemed to keep moving, as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was from my best friend, Rachel. I'd told her everything already, and I could tell from the brief message that she was waiting for me to finally respond. Rachel. Hey, I'm coming over in an hour. Don't even think about turning me away. I'm bringing pizza, wine, and an entire fleet of bad movies. I smiled faintly and typed back, Lauren. Sounds perfect. I'll see you then. I set the phone down and took a slow breath. This was my life now. There was no wedding, no future with Ethan, but there was still me. The world outside hadn't stopped, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had the space to breathe again. It was like I'd been holding my breath for months, and now I was finally exhaling. I didn't need a man to define my life. I didn't need anyone who would betray me. I was enough on my own. A few hours later, Rachel arrived, dragging in a giant box of pizza and a bottle of red wine. We didn't talk much. She knew what I needed, someone to sit with me while the world started to settle again. We popped the cork, ate too much pizza, and let the movies run without paying attention to the plot. I didn't even mind that she kept sending me knowing looks when I absent-mindedly glanced at my phone. There were texts from Ethan's sister, from his mom. They were still trying to reach me, trying to fix something that had already been broken. But this time, I wasn't answering. I didn't have to. The night stretched on like an easy, familiar comfort. There was no drama, no stress, just peace. And slowly the hollow ache in my chest started to fill. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. And that was more than enough. Before dawn even broke the next morning, my phone buzzed against my nightstand. At first, I thought it was an alarm. I reached for it blindly, groggy from the wine and exhaustion, but the vibration kept going. A call. Persistent. Insistent. Unknown number. The kind of number that makes your stomach dip before you even answer. I let it ring out. 30 seconds later, it buzzed again. Same number. Something in me tightened. People don't call twice at 5:42 a.m. unless they're desperate or they've lost something. I answered. Hello? A thick pause, a breath, then, Lauren. The voice was rough, male, older. I'm sure you know who this is. I sat up fully awake now. Ethan's father. That's right. He sighed heavily, the sound of a man who didn't want to be making this call. We need to talk, face to face. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Mr. Cooper, with all due respect, everything that needed to be said has already been said. No, he replied, it hasn't, and I'm not calling to defend what he did. I'm calling because I need to understand what happens next. That threw me. Ethan's family had been a relentless wall. Guilt, excuses, denial. His mother especially. She treated the affair like a smudge on a white blouse. Unfortunate, but nothing a little scrubbing couldn't fix. But his father? He was different, quieter, observant. A pastor who listened more than he spoke. And apparently, he wasn't done listening. Fine, I said after a beat. But if this turns into another lecture about forgiveness... It won't, he exhaled. Meet me at the corner coffee shop on Maple. 10 minutes? 10 minutes, I repeated. Sure. When the call ended, I had a moment, just a small one, to stare at myself in the dresser mirror. My hair was a mess. My eyes were puffy. My heart felt like bruised fruit. But I wasn't the woman Ethan cheated on. Not anymore. I was the woman who walked away. I threw on a hoodie, tied my hair back, grabbed my keys, and left before I could talk myself out of it. The sky was still dark, with only a hint of blue pushing up from the horizon. The streets were empty except for the bakery delivery truck and a jogger with neon shoes. The coffee shop lights glowed warm in the window, a little island of brightness in the hushed morning air. When I walked in, Ethan's father was already there. He sat at a corner table, fingers wrapped around a steaming mug. His shoulders slumped in a way I hadn't seen before, like he'd aged overnight. When he looked up and saw me, his expression softened. Lauren, he said, sit. I did. For a moment, we just sat there in silence, the hum of the espresso machine filling the space between us. Then he spoke. I won't waste your time. I'm not here to ask you to take him back. I raised an eyebrow. That's a surprise. He gave a short, humorless laugh. It shouldn't be. I love my son, but he's made a mess I can't justify. He folded his hands on the table. She hasn't left her sister's couch in days, he said quietly. She barely eats. She barely talks. That's unfortunate, I said. My voice was flat. But it's not my responsibility. I know, he nodded. And I'm not asking you to make it your responsibility. I'm asking what you expect to happen now. I move on, I replied simply. The wedding is canceled. The vendors have been contacted. Deposits are being refunded where possible. His brows lifted. How much are you losing? About 6,000, I said, give or take. He winced. That's a lot of money. It's less than I'd lose staying with someone I can't trust. He nodded slowly. You're right. For a moment, he looked down at his coffee as though searching for a sermon buried in the foam. Then he met my eyes again. She wants to know if there's any chance, he said softly. There isn't. You didn't even let me finish. I didn't need you to. He swallowed. No second chances? No counseling? No friendship even? No, I said. We're done. He studied my face for a long time, like he was looking for cracks, searching for hesitation, something he could take back to his son. But he found nothing. Finally, he sat back. 4 years, he murmured. And you can just turn it off? I shook my head. He turned it off when he cheated. I'm just acknowledging the reality he created. He exhaled slowly. My wife thinks you crossed a line telling the other woman's husband, he said gently. She thinks it was vindictive. His wife deserved to know, I replied, just like I deserve to know. He nodded, eyes thoughtful. If your spouse was cheating, I said, wouldn't you want someone to tell you? He was silent for a long moment. Then, yes, he said quietly, I would. Then you understand. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again. I do. He looked older now, tired, like someone who'd spent the last several days carrying weight that didn't belong to him, but that he couldn't put down. You're calm, he said after a moment, calmer than I expected. I'm furious, I said, but staying calm is more effective. He huffed a quiet laugh. You're a remarkable woman, Lauren. I'm just a woman who knows she deserves better, I said. His expression shifted then, something like respect, something like sorrow. I'll tell him to stop contacting you, he said finally, and I'll try to keep his mother off your back. I can't make promises, but I can try. I'd appreciate that. He stood then, slipping his coat over his shoulders. At the end of all this, he said, pausing, I want you to know something. I lifted my chin. You deserve a marriage built on honesty, he said gently. Not secrecy, not shame, not excuses, honesty. My throat tightened unexpectedly. Thank you, I managed. He nodded once, then left the coffee shop, the bell chiming softly behind him. I sat there long after he'd gone, fingers wrapped around a cup that had long since gone cold. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. You won't even consider trying. I can't believe you're being this cruel after everything we had. I didn't reply. Another message came. You told her husband just to hurt me. Admit it. Still nothing. Then, fine. Don't answer. But you're going to regret this. You're going to realize you threw away something good over a mistake. I blocked his number, blocked his mother, blocked his sister, blocked the entire Cooper family. Then I walked out of the coffee shop, the sun breaking over the horizon as if nothing monumental had happened inside that glass storefront. But something had. I'd walked in as the woman Ethan cheated on. I walked out as the woman who would never tolerate that again. The next few weeks were quiet, in a way I hadn't expected. The weight of everything that had happened settled into my bones, but it wasn't crushing. It was more like a heavy blanket that wrapped itself around me, reminding me of the work still to be done, moving on, rebuilding, and cutting all the ties that had once tethered me to Ethan and the life we had planned. I kept busy. I threw myself into work. My team needed me. The spreadsheets, the budgets, the deadlines, everything felt solid, real. There was no room for distractions. There was no room for regrets. But that wasn't to say I didn't have my moments. Late at night, when everything else was quiet, I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling. I'd replay the moments, Ethan's voice, the way he'd begged me to reconsider, the look in his eyes when he realized I wasn't going to back down. I'd replay the last text from him, the one where he claimed I would regret this, and it made me sick. But then I reminded myself, again and again, that this wasn't regret. This was freedom. And yet, there were still times when I missed the idea of us. Not the lies, not the cheating, not the broken promises, but the dream I'd had in my head for so long. I had loved that idea, but ideas are fragile. People are real. One evening, after work, I walked into my favorite cafe and ordered my usual. A flat white with oat milk. The barista smiled at me like she always did, and I took a seat by the window, scrolling through some emails. It felt like a normal evening, a calm one. But as I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed with an incoming message. Rachel. Hey, I'm coming over tonight. Bring wine. We need to talk about something. I frowned at the text. I hadn't seen Rachel in over a week. I wasn't sure what she meant by talk, but I figured I could use the distraction. I'd been thinking a lot about what had happened, and maybe it was time to stop overthinking and just be with someone who truly understood me. That evening, Rachel arrived with a bottle of red wine and her usual energy. She was wearing a big scarf and had her hands full with bags from the grocery store. "You okay?" she asked, setting the bags down and plopping on the couch. "I'm fine," I said, pouring us each a glass of wine. "Busy, but fine." She took a long sip. "I don't know about fine. You've been avoiding me." I raised an eyebrow. "Avoiding you? How?" She leaned back, crossing her legs. "I don't know. You've just been distant. Like you're processing, and that's great, but you're also shutting everyone else out." I nodded slowly. "I get that, but I'm not trying to shut anyone out. It's just, I don't have the energy to keep talking about it, you know?" Rachel softened. "I get it, I do, but it's been a while. You deserve more than just getting through this. You deserve to live again, Lauren." I stared at her, not quite sure what she meant. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, "maybe it's time to stop just surviving this and start moving forward. Start living." I took a deep breath. I was trying. I was. But some days felt like I was still floating in limbo, stuck between the life I had thought I was going to have and the reality I was now facing. "I don't even know how to move forward," I said quietly. "I don't want him back, but I don't know what comes after this. I was supposed to marry him, Rachel. I was supposed to build a life with him." Rachel set her wine down and took my hand. "You are building a life, a better one, without him." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Maybe it was the way she said it, so certain, so sure. Maybe it was that I needed someone to believe in my future the way I wasn't sure I could anymore. The thing was, Rachel was right. I had been focusing on the loss, the broken dreams, the wedding that never happened. But I hadn't given myself enough credit for how far I'd come. I hadn't given myself permission to feel proud of moving on. "Do you want to do something crazy?" Rachel asked, her voice lowering with a glint of mischief. "Like what?" "Like go to that wine bar you've been talking about for months. The one on Broadway?" I laughed despite myself. "I'm in my sweatpants, and it's Tuesday." "Exactly," she said, winking. "It's the perfect time to do something completely out of character. You don't need to be anyone's fiancé tonight. You're just Lauren." For the first time in a long time, I felt my shoulders relax. Maybe I did need to do something out of character. Maybe it was time to start embracing the parts of myself that had been buried under the weight of other people's expectations. "All right," I said, standing up. "Let's go to that wine bar." The evening passed in a blur of laughter, good wine, and the kind of conversation that makes you feel lighter. Rachel didn't push me to talk about Ethan, and I didn't mention him once. Instead, we talked about silly things. Her latest Tinder date, the apartment she was thinking of renting, and how the city felt different now that we were no longer just kids trying to make it. By the time we were on our third glass of wine, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't dramatic, but it was there, a sense of possibility. The world felt wide again, full of chances. I could do anything, and it didn't have to involve fixing my past. When we left the wine bar, the night was crisp and clear. The city buzzed around us, full of life and energy. I looked at Rachel, smiling as we walked to the subway station. "You're right," I said. "I've been surviving, but now I think I can start living again." She grinned. "Told you, you've got this." And for the first time in months, I actually believed it. The following weeks passed in a blur of self-discovery. I started saying yes more, yes to new experiences, yes to dating again, though not seriously, yes to new opportunities. I booked a solo trip to the coast and spent hours on the beach, letting the salty air clear out the last of the emotional clutter. I reconnected with old friends, joined a new book club, and finally tackled the pile of wedding planning magazines that had been sitting on my bookshelf. It wasn't easy, but little by little, I began to shed the weight of what I'd lost. Ethan was no longer a shadow in my thoughts. I didn't obsess over his text messages or regret the choices I had made. I didn't need him. What I needed was me. And for the first time in a long time, I was starting to like who I was becoming.